stars, and that's who we are. We are voices. There's nothing to fear. Explode in your rear. Feel our voices.
Oi! Welcome back to Voice of the Republic. I'm Ed.
I'm Carl.
And Carl's going to fix our accents in post.
I wish.
Americans don't understand what we're saying.
Yep. That's always really funny to me. Like we were just talking about on the break, but anytime that like you take a movie that's in English and then you overdub it in English, it just seems redundant. But it's the same thing as when people talk about like English shows and they're watching like, oh, I've watched Doctor Who, but I can't understand what they're saying. I'm like, they're fucking speaking English. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I totally get it. But especially when it came, we're talking about Mad Max.
Yeah, we're talking about the original Mad Max, sorry.
Yeah.
In case you didn't watch last episode or you missed the title card or you don't see the title in the description, whatever.
Yeah, so 1979, it's Mad Max. When it was released internationally, I guess, especially for the States, I guess that was the fear was, A, they wouldn't really understand what they were saying. I just don't really know why. I guess maybe they thought it would be too weird an accent to listen to as you watch, ultra-violence and car chases.
Or maybe they thought that like people couldn't relate to it or something like that. Maybe like the accents was a disconnect. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't also flip the film horizontally so everyone was driving on the right side of the road.
Yeah, one would think. Although I will give them credit.
The American release.
Exactly. I will give them credit that above many other anime movies, etc., that have been released, they got a really great cast to do all the voiceover work. So even, I grew up watching this movie with Mad Max. He had this gravelly voice. It was kind of deep. And then years later, I finally saw it in Australian when I bought the DVD, and I was really excited. I'm like, sweet, the original Australian. This would be great. It's just an accent. Like the guy that got to do Mad Max's voice was amazing. Everybody pretty much sounds exactly like their counterpart.
Yeah, because I mean, like they went for voice actors, like it, and people approach it like voice acting. And when you're on set, you don't always get the benefit of just sitting like, okay, how would I say this? Let me take that one more time. No, one more time. I think I got it this time. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
So it brings a different level to it. But I'll be honest, I don't remember ever seeing it without the original accent. Like, okay. I'm sure I've seen it like on TV on HBO or something like that with the original like English overdub.
Yeah, English. The American dub.
Yeah, but I don't ever recall it, so
okay.
I don't know.
It's fine. It's a novelty at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they did such a great job. But when this came out, it really was the first of its kind. It wasn't just a futuristic movie. It wasn't just a car chase movie. Because if you want that, there was always Death Race 2000, just for sheer weird exploitation. This movie was just enough into the future where people could relate. They weren't trying to, put lasers on heads or anything like, Star Crash and Jared Sin and shit, or go way out like Battle Force 2000, Death Race 2000. That's a whole other show. But by really playing on all the fears of the '70s about stemming from the oil crisis of the early '70s, in which in Australia, being an island continent, just a small continent, there was violent clashes over fuel, and also just the violence that may erupt socially from things really going to hell. So it wasn't even about a nuclear explosion yet. it didn't need to be. It was just like an economic collapse, a social breakdown, and this world that they painted really managed to capture that, and how the law would have to change to deal with it. And it was like really it started the trend of, you know, what we now can just write off as a post-apocalyptic blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it definitely brought forward the morality of the Western hero. You know, like you think of like the Clint Eastwood sort of like man with no name sort of thing. Like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he he's a protagonist, but I don't know if he's a good guy. Mad Max, you know, he starts off as the good guy, you know, and then he gets pushed too far, and he starts taking the law into his own hands, and you know, he's taken out like due process, and you look at it and you're just like, well, that's understandable. He's getting vengeance. He like killed his wife and his baby, and rah, rah, rah. You're like, but still, this is a guy that swore to uphold the law, and already early in the film, the law fails because the one guy ends up getting out like because no one shows up at the court date. You know, so like the law is failing, so he takes it into his own hands. He essentially becomes Judge Dredd. You know, he becomes a totalitarian, and you know, like so, like it's a really interesting morality tale when you look at it, and it's super complex when you take the time to break it down in that regards, because it's super easy just to look at it as like, well, it's just a bunch of car crashes and out in Australia outback, and people are killing each other, and people are trying to get raped, whatever. You know, it's like, yeah, that is the gist of the plot, but there's a lot going on there, and it's really funny because there's this documentary, and I can't remember the name of it now, but they just pretty much focus entirely on Australian Grindhouse. It was on Netflix.
It's amazing.
So good. And, you know, like, up to that point, Australian cinema was just exploitive schlock. You know, it wasn't bad, but it was definitely Grindhouse. It definitely had, like, this certain comfort zone. And Mad Max still retains that Grindhouse quality, but it adds so much depth to it and actually becomes a really, really good cinematic experience. And I think it's, like, a lot of people will confirm this also, but I think it's like the breakout moment for Australia cinema. It's really the defining moment. So
yeah, I would totally agree about that. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier. And there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of amazing iconic characters. Not just Max, not just his wife that easily could be written off as damsel in distress, but as we talked about, like she stands out. She is a tough broad. She stands up to these guys as best she can. And gives her life trying to protect her child against these violent maniacs. And honestly, when it was one-on-one, she stood her ground, but like they finally overwhelmed her, you know, and like and at that point they got her off guard, and you know, But sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to elaborate on that because I think you're right. She's not just a damsel in distress. Like she eventually becomes distressed, but it's not because of a lack of strength or a lack of character. She finally just gets overwhelmed by the numbers and the odds. And you know, and it says a lot considering, you know, we've seen the same gang taking out other cars, other citizens, other cops. Like they're fucking nothing to be trifled with. So the fact that, I mean, she's probably ignorant of all these things, but she just doesn't take bullshit. So, you know, hats off to Kennedy Miller for that one. But the, I'm sorry. That's what I was going to say.
Interesting characters.
Right, you're right. The characters are amazing, but we also touched a little bit on some of the, just the filmmaking. Not only was it a different time for filmmaking, but it was definitely Australian filmmaking where they just do shit. And I'll post this, but I was reading, I saw like a making of about it, like, you know, it comes with the DVD, but there was also a list of, you know, what you probably didn't know about Mad Max. I'll have a link to that. But things like, you know, there's a great scene where Goose, the motorcycle cop, he's just hauling ass down the road, this empty road, and he's just going, and he's going, and he's going, and you see that, you know, his tack is in the red, and the speedometer is up at like 120, 160, 180, and it's just going. And when you're watching it, you're in your seat, and you're just like, whoa, you feel it. And there was no other way to film this. It is a guy with a camera on the back. I think it was Miller himself on the back, like shooting this camera, not like a little digital handycam, kids, not like today. He's not all like, no, we got it, no. There's a big fucking film camera, and this guy's going like 160 kilometers an hour around the banks of Melbourne, hauling ass, and that's the kind of shit they would do. When guys are flying, there's no wire. They're flying off of cars or flying off of trucks. You talk about who got hurt. There's a really famous scene where one of the bikers he spills, and it's this incredible slow-mo. Not a lot of slow-mo in this movie, which is amazing considering opportunities to be gratuitous. But he rolls his bike. It's wrecked. It's sliding. He's sliding along the ground with it, and he's got some kind of weird tail coming out. It's not guts or his spine. It's just some accoutrement. And as he's rolling down, his bike spins as it's sliding, and the wheel pops him in the back of the head. So even in slow-mo, you feel it. You're like, holy shit, oh my god! But, it's actually a biker gang, like a legitimate Australian biker gang dude that they hired to do this. He's like, yeah, I'll take a spill. And it hit him, and he just like, everybody raced to him like, holy fuck, are you alright? He's like, yeah, it's fine. Do we need a reshoot, So it looks worse than it was, but... but it just... And especially the motorcycle accidents, they did a great job just making them look so vicious. Like that first accident with Goose when he slides up underneath that car, you're just like, oh! And you're just like, it doesn't look like fatal, but you're just like, damn, that looks like it hurts because he just slid and then he catches his leg pinned underneath it. You're like, oh. Yeah. And also, going along with more of the technical talk, I believe I read it's also the first Australian movie to actually use the widescreen anamorphic lens when filming. Oh, cool. So it was like we said, it's a groundbreaking movie. A lot of work went into it, and it really legitimized Australia as a filmmaking country. So yeah, and even the final scene, we talk about the influences among post-apocalyptic movies, but even the final scene where Max is talking with the Johnny the boy, kind of the catalyst for all this misadventure and tragedy. He's got him handcuffed to a wrecked car, gas is pouring out, and, he just basically set the thing alight and handed him a saw. And he's like, you can try and cut through the handcuffs, you can try and cut through your leg. Leg will be faster. Good luck. Peace out. And that's how it ends. And it's the guys that wrote Saw that started that franchise. That's the birth. Like, they give full credit. They're like, that would be insane, a guy in a room with a saw. Like, he's got to choose death or, this. So, thanks, Mad Max.
Exactly. And then also you have that iconic, like, I'm sure it's probably been done before, but it's like one of the earliest examples of it in my memory is the hero walking or driving away from the explosion and not looking back shot. Because he's a doesn't even look back, doesn't even acknowledge it, just keeps on driving. That's and that is so cliche now, but back then that wasn't a cliche, and I still think that it's a gorgeous shot because it's not quite centered, and he's coming around that hill and everything in the curve, and then you have
it takes a while before it actually blows up because that Johnny's down there sawing one thing or the other as he's driving off. Yeah. That's so harsh.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful scene, like that whole And there's a lot of those really good scenes, and I think that gets back to what you were talking about in the last episode, where it's a dichotomy of super awesome action and then these really very emotional scenes. They're either like emotional because they're trying you, like your morality, or they're trying like your emotions, like I'm sad over so and so dying, or his reaction to someone dying. But it's just this constant juggling, and they do it so well, and not a lot of movies can do that. So.
Well, they take the time to show the human side of it, and that's not a cliche either. It matters. They take the time to show him and his wife. And their baby, just doing stupid shit around the house.
Speaking of, I'm sorry though.
Yeah.
There is one scene though that I never noticed before watching it this past week, and it's the kid sitting on the floor playing with a handgun.
Yeah.
I about lost my shit. I've totally never caught that before. So,
Yeah, I love that.
I wanted to point that out because that's just cray-cray. But
It's good stuff.
do you think it's good stuff? What do you think about Mad Max? Star Wars? Let us know. Go over to vorradio.com. We have links for the Republicom. You can either voicemail or email us a text or a voice message through that. We have a link to the Facebook group where we constantly discuss Mad Max, Star Wars, Star Trek, toys, pretty much all the nerdy stuff.
All the time.
Constantly. And if it's not us, it's the other Vorons like yourself. So head on over to vorradio.com, check it out, catch the links.
Be a Voron. Check us out. And check us out tomorrow. We'll be talking about the Road Warrior. A big one. Right on. Till then, hey, may the Force
be with
that ass.